Meanwhile, the UK has paused its trade talks and sanctioned extremist settlers, while Canada and France have also threatened sanctions. And opposition to the war is growing inside of Israel as well. Among those speaking out is the country's former Prime Minister, Ølmert. In a new opinion piece for Haaretz, making headlines around the world, he says Israel is committing war crimes. And he joins me now live from Tel Aviv. Mr. Prime Minister, thank you so much for taking the time. Your criticism of this government and how it's been conducting this war is not new. You have been outspoken on that front for many months now. But going to this level and saying that Israel is in fact committing war crimes is something entirely different. I want to read from your piece. You said, what we are doing in Gaza now is a war of devastation, indiscriminate, limitless, cruel, and criminal killing of civilians. We're not doing this due to some disproportionate outburst by some soldiers in some unit. Rather, it's the result of government policy, knowingly, evilly, maliciously, irresponsibly dictated. Yes, Israel is committing war crimes. So what has changed, in your view, and why are you speaking out publicly and globally now?
Well, as you said before, I've been speaking for a long period of time, and I criticize the Israeli government and particularly the lack of any vision about what comes next. What are we going to do in order to end the war, release the hostages, and start to move it towards some kind of a political horizon that will start perhaps a process that will end the military confrontations. What happened, particularly in the last few days, was the statements made by Israeli cabinet ministers, the leading cabinet ministers, that say we should starve Gaza. What is it if not a war crime? I mean, how can a serious person representing the Israeli government can spell it out in such an explicit manner that we should starve Gaza, that there should be no supply of basic fundamental humanitarian needs to a couple of million people living there. They are terrorists that we need to fight, but this is not a war against Hamas. This looks more and more like a political war of the Israeli Prime Minister and the cabinet and the group of thugs which are now representing the Israeli government inside Israel and across the world are committing actions which can't be interpreted in any other way.
As we have noted, calls of condemnation and threats of additional sanctions and a reevaluation of trade partnerships among traditional allies have now been dominating news headlines over the past several days. I want to play sound from German Chancellor Merz on this as well.
What the Israeli army is now doing in the Gaza Strip, frankly, I no longer understand what the objective is. To inflict such suffering also on the civilian population, as has increasingly been the case in recent days, can no longer be justified on the grounds of a fight against Hamas terrorism.
We even hear from President Trump, who has not gone to those lengths, but has said that the war should come to an end. When you have allies like that making comments to this degree and even threatening implications for trade relationships, what does that mean for Israel and its increasing what appears to be isolation on the global stage?
Well, certainly it looks like it, and it's very sad. I must say that I now listen to what the new Chancellor of Germany said, and I know he's a friend of Israel, as Prime Minister Sturmer or President Macron, and Prime Minister Carney, and Prime Minister Meloni, and the ministers and prime ministers of so many other countries. And President Trump is held by most of the Israelis to be a great friend of the State of Israel. He also says that we should supply the basic fundamental needs of the people of Gaza. They can't starve. And I think that the international condemnation of the policies of Netanyahu And the group of ministers, the messianic extremist right-wingers that are now leading the government and dictating to Netanyahu what should be done and how it should be done, I think that they have to listen to what the international community says and to change direction. And I personally hope that President Trump will take the lead in making this effort. I think that no one but him can actually summon Netanyahu to a place they both love very much, which is the Oval Office facing the TV cameras, and he should do it and say to Netanyahu, enough is enough. It's time to end the war. It was a time, long time ago, but it certainly is today, to end the war, to supply all the humanitarian needs of the people that are uninvolved in terror, and there are many of them, and release the hostages and move forward. It's time.
Why do you think he hasn't done that thus far? He had an opportunity when he was in the Oval Office just a few weeks ago, and by all accounts seemed to embarrass the Prime Minister by announcing that he's going to be speaking with Iranian officials about a potential nuclear deal. Why not do this then?
Look, you know, how many people do you know in the world that can interpret and analyze President Trump? I'm not one of them. I don't know. I think that he cares, and I respect him for this, because he spelled it out in numerous occasions in the last couple of days in Washington. So he didn't do it a couple of months ago. It's time to do it now, and I hope he will do it. I really certainly think that he is the only person, perhaps, that can force the Israeli Prime Minister to come to terms with reality, and with the moral reality of what is being accomplished by his government.
These are serious charges, as you know, that you are leveling against your government and the Prime Minister. How should they be held accountable? How should they be treated? What charges, if any, should they be facing from their own population or from the international community?
You know, it's not enough that I'm accusing them. You now want me to be the judge and the executor. I hope that this government will disappear as soon as possible. I believe that the majority of Israelis are sick and tired of these policies, of these statements, of what the terrible damage that was caused by this government to the moral integrity of the state of Israel and the people of Israel. And I hope that the movement of protest, which is expanding rapidly in all of the streets of our country, in Tel Aviv and in Jerusalem and in other parts of the country, that will gain additional force in order to create the necessary political process that will lead to immediate elections and the removal of this government.
Mr. Prime Minister, in just the last few moments that I have you, I do want to get you to weigh in on your views on where things stand with Iran negotiations and the increased reporting we've seen that if in fact these talks fall through, that Israel may be prepared to launch imminently. Do you think that is what Prime Minister Netanyahu would do?
Look, you have to distinguish between what he can do and what he says. The rhetoric of Netanyahu is well known, and we are all acquainted with the periodical threats that he poses to the Iranians. I still believe that there is a good chance that President Trump will succeed in these negotiations. He said just the other day that there are good signals coming from these negotiations. Obviously, Iran is a threat and is a danger, not just to the state of Israel, but to the entire region and perhaps to the entire world. And no one better than President Trump is aware of that and is prepared to deal with it. And he said time and again that if Iran will not come to terms with America about the nuclear, then bad things will happen. I hope that there will be an agreement, and I hope that this agreement will make sure that there is a strict supervision about any future plans of Iran towards the nuclear. Trump said, and President Biden before him, President Obama before them, they all said that America will not allow Iran to have a nuclear bomb. I hope that the president will take care of this, and in any event, I don't think that this is incumbent upon Israel to attack Iran, because I think that America can deal with it either by negotiations or by a military action in a much more effective manner than the rhetoric of Netanyahu.